good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio. So today, I'm going to be showing you Lusamine Prism Star. Now, unfortunately, I know this is slightly later than I should have done, but come on. So many cards were revealed, and it was the World Championships. I'm bringing as many videos as I can. I'm doing like 4 a day, and it's not enough. I'm only one wussy. Anyway, Lusamine Prism Star. Now, I did translate this myself using Google Translate. I then sent a message to the wonderful David Hochmann and said, "Yo, David, here's what I think it does. How correct am I?" David was like, "Wussy, you got this, man. You go make your video." Full disclaimer, that is not exactly how David talks. It's not even remotely how David talks, but he did confirm we had the translation. What does it do? Well, it can only be used if your opponent has exactly 3 prizes remaining, and then during your opponent's next turn, your Ultra Beasts will not suffer any damage from your opponent's Pokemon. Prevent all damage to all of your Ultra Beasts played by your opponent's Pokemon. That's nuts! That is absolutely nuts. It gives your Ultra Beast immunity for an entire turn. And I always say with Prism Stars, I want them to be good. I want them to be over the top good. I want them to be so good people are going, "Oh, that's really good. Thank goodness it's a Prism Star, because if it wasn't a Prism Star, it would be over the top broken." That's what Lusamine is. Now let's imagine it wasn't a Prism Star for a moment. Your opponent could never have 3 prizes remaining, because what you would do is the second your opponent had 3 prizes remaining, you would drop this Lusamine supporter, and you would be invincible. And then you would use cards like Pal Pad and, ironically, Lusamine to make sure you're just reusing every single turn Lusamine, the Prism Star that wouldn't be a Prism Star, and you would basically be invulnerable for the remainder of the game, just so long as you only had Ultra Beasts on the field. This is why it has to be a Prism Star. We cannot let this not be a Prism Star. It absolutely has to be a Prism Star. Is it good enough to be played, given that you can only play one of them? And to be honest with you, I feel like this, like I do about a lot of other Prism Stars. I look at Thunder Mountain, the Prism Star Stadium, that reduces the attack cost of all lightning Pokemon by 1 lightning energy, and I go, well, if you're playing a lightning deck, you've got to play one of those. And I look at Lusamine Prism Star here, and I go, well, if you're playing a Ultra Beast deck, you've got to play one of these. I think it is an absolute no-brainer. Here's the thing. We have Ultra Beast decks. Now, they are not repping the World Championships particularly strongly this weekend, but probably the best of the bunch is Naganadel Stack Attacker. And I've done a video about this, I'll pop a link in the description. But essentially what you do is you use Naganadel to do Beast Raid, 20 damage for each Ultra Beast you've got in play, and then you put 4 Stack Attacker on the board, and you reduce damage done to you by 10, and then you can use Duskmane Necrozma as a nice single prize, single energy attacker in the early game to spread a bit of damage around while you're getting set up and rolling. Makes sense? Course it does. Well, imagine that in a deck like this. Your opponent's got exactly 3 prizes remaining. You drop this, it guarantees you a turn of immunity. That's what's so awesome. Although, to be fair, there are plenty of Pokemon that actually go through this. So we talked about Tyranitar GX the other day. Fun little card, I'll pop a link in the description. That GX attack did 220 and went through all effects on the defending Pokemon. So some things will go through this. Essentially, the supporter puts an effect on your Ultra Beast, cannot be harmed next turn, and then Tyranitar goes through it. But generally speaking, you get yourself a turn of immunity. And that's absolutely invaluable. That gives you an extra attack that your opponent's not getting, or indeed, it just stops your opponent for a turn. It puts the prize trade back in your favor. You're down by a prize, you use this, you take a prize your opponent doesn't. Oh, look, you're up by a prize. But the thing is, we've got so many of these Ultra Beasts that do specific things at specific levels that this is actually really good. So your opponent's got exactly 3 prizes remaining. You play Lusamine, your opponent has 3 prizes remaining this turn. They can then not attack your Ultra Beast, so you then guarantee that they've definitely got 3 prizes next turn. Well, that opens up a lot of options. So, for instance, Bstring, a great item card whereby if your opponent's got 3 or 4 prizes remaining, you can search your deck for 2 basic energy cards and attach them to one of your Ultra Beasts. Your opponent has 3 prizes remaining, you drop Lusamine Prism Star, well then there's going to be one more turn where they've got 3 prizes remaining, meaning you can use Bstring. Now, annoyingly as it stands at the moment, there are no other Ultra Beast attacks which revolve around your opponent having 3 prizes remaining. The new Naganadel does 160 if you've got 3 prizes remaining, and the Circuitry from Forbidden Light has automatic paralysis if you've got 3 prizes remaining. Unfortunately, they revolve around you having 3 prizes remaining, not your opponent. But we're getting new Ultra Beasts released all the time, and these Ultra Beasts always have an attack which comes into effect or does more if one or both players has X number of prizes remaining. So we've got the Kartana, if you've got 6 prizes remaining, you do more damage. Celesteela, if the pair of you combined have 6 prizes remaining. It is interesting that these are coming around, so we may well have a card in future that has a bonus effect if your opponent has 3 prizes remaining. If we end up in that situation, then you can use Lusamine to make that last a little bit longer. To be honest, it gives you immunity that's phenomenal. It gives you an extra turn of Bstring. That's phenomenal. I mean, to be honest, that in and of itself, that's amazing. Just all I'm saying is keep an eye out, because it may well end up that in the future there are other things that come around which allow you to take advantage of this even more. But at this stage, and I'm sure a bunch of you have already said it out loud, are wondering why I haven't said it myself. Do remember that Naganadel GX's GX attack leaves both players with exactly 3 prizes remaining. Now, to be fair, it then goes to your opponent's turn, and if they then take a prize, it's kind of a moot point. But if you can use Naganadel GX's GX attack, reset both yourself and your opponent to 3 prizes remaining, and they cannot take a prize on their next turn, then you can drop Lusamine to give yourself immunity, and at that point, Lusamine could well end up winning you the game at that stage. That's really quite cool. Although, like I've said, if your opponent does take a prize, that's a little bit of a pain. Similarly, this only works if your opponent has exactly 3 prizes remaining. So if they take a GX KO and then another GX KO, or if they take a non-GX KO, then a non-GX KO, then a GX KO, then they will end up going from 4 prizes remaining to 2, and they will never end up having 3 prizes. There will be games with Lusamine where you're just unable to actually use it, unless you use a completely non-GX Ultra Beast deck, but then you're turning down Stack Attacker, and it's just a little bit like, why would you do that? Surely having Stack Attacker on board and reducing damage by potentially 40 every turn is worth potentially not using Lusamine. But as we've seen, good players are generally able to manipulate the prizes such that you'll end up with your opponent having 3 prizes remaining. The reality is here, if you're playing an Ultra Beast deck, you're putting 1 Lusamine in, and I think that really is a no-brainer at this stage. And if you can use it, and remember you can always search it out with Tapu Lele, so it's going to be easier to actually use, but then also remember that Ultra Beast decks don't tend to play Tapu Lele, which will make this more difficult to find and hence more difficult to take advantage of. But it's a very good card, it gives you a turn of immunity, and yeah, you won't be able to get it in every game. Either you won't be able to find it, or your opponent won't have 3 prizes remaining, but it's 1 card in your deck, and if nothing else, it's a lot better than Cyrus, and it's probably better than Lysander as well. I would say it's probably the best Prism Star supporter we've had so far. And the fact that it will be played in, I would say, every beast deck means that you need to give it 4 Wussies. Or at least, I'm going to be giving it 4 Wussies. But if you disagree with me, ladies and gentlemen, great news. There's a comment section. Do go nuts, but do be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter, @LOASI, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.